ever since I played Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seven, of which you should really try that game out. It is fantastic. I have a review in the top right corner and in the description. But when I played that game, I decided to myself that I was going to relook at how I approach the SaGa games. I'm going to try them out and really dive into the systems and understand and enjoy it, much like I did with Romancing SaGa 2. Then lo and behold, Square Enix decided to shadow drop SaGa Frontier 2 Remastered during a Nintendo Direct, and I was like, well, hey, I better put my words to the test, and here we are, because in today's video I'm going to be going over my thoughts and opinions of SaGa Frontier 2 Remastered. So with that all being said, what is up guys, Jen here, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. As always, got your quarter timestamp, so if there's a certain section of this video you'd like to skip to, feel free to do so. All I ask is you to support the channel and hit the thumbs up button, and if you want to stick around for some more RPG content, then please consider hitting the subscribe button. So SaGa Frontier 2 Remastered. What is this game? Well, this centers around just two characters. We have Gustav, who is the heir of a royal family, who is unable to cast spells. And then we have William, who is simply an adventurer. And the unique thing about SaGa Frontier 2 is that sometimes they are separate, sometimes they progress simultaneously, and sometimes they just interweave with one another. And it's really unique how they approach it. They approach it with like an event-based narrative system where you get to choose the order of play. So you pick a year, you pick a scenario, and you kind of go through the story. The way I decided to tackle it was in order. I wanted to keep it nice and simple, so I started going through all of Gustav's scenarios until there was no more to go through, and then I went over to do Will's stories. And I've got to say, it took me a while to get into what SaGa Frontier 2 was offering here. I had to let time pass, and as I was going through all of these scenarios, I was slowly starting to click together what was going on, and I was like, okay, I get this structure. But what I didn't really like is that Gustav's, especially during the beginning, was very story heavy, and it was revolving around Gustav and the fact that he had no magic and he was exiled from the kingdom, and it weaves in a lot of political and kingdom related things into it, and it was very story heavy, not much gameplay. Though when I went over to do William's scenario, it's a much more traditional RPG story for me, playing as an adventurer. He is a part of a family of diggers, and they make their living mining quells and relics of the past, and he comes across a mysterious object simply called the egg, and it really kicks off a grand adventure. So all in all, the story for me, I liked some of the things it was tackling with Gustav's story. I can see things that are going to interweave with Will's story, but I really like Will's story because it's a lot more down to earth for me. It's just a simple guy that's discovered something and wants to learn its secrets and traverse the world. So for me, the story wasn't its strongest suit. I really wanted to get into the gameplay. So let's talk about that gameplay. I like to start off with exploration, but SaGa Frontier 2, especially like I said, during Gustav's story, there was not much exploration. When I got to tackle the first little dungeon you get to do as Gustav, I really liked it. I liked these water painted like backgrounds and the pixel art. They seem to mesh quite well. I played a lot of this on the PlayStation Portal and it just popped really nicely. But apart from that, it had the usual tropes of we could go to a couple of shops and we could find a few items along the way, but it was very short-lived during Gustav. It wasn't until I played as Will where I had a town, I traveled to a dungeon to find something, and then I came back to the town and then it unlocked another location, and it all built upon there, and I really like that structure. But exploration was not the key here. There wasn't much to really go off the off-beaten path. There was a few extras to find, like very early on you check a drawer and you get someone to use it for the digging minigame, which I'll get into a little bit later. But apart from that, very subpar and not the main engagement. The main engagement is the combat, and I want to talk about the combat and all of its systems. So the unique thing about SaGa Frontier 2 is that there's quite a few types of battles, so it really depends on where you are in the story, the party members you have with you, and what is going off around you. So we have the usual turn-based type battles, we also have duels, and then what I experienced as playing Gustav mostly is the warfare battles. So let's start off with the usual battles here, which is the turn-based combat battles. It works a lot like Romancing SaGa 2 to a certain extent, and I guess it's something I should have mentioned. If you are playing Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seventh and you're like me and interested to try other SaGa games, it was a bit of a reality check for me to know that this is not exactly like it, but there are definitely traits from the SaGa franchise that are weaved in here. It just has its own identity. And the combat system, at first, I really didn't get into it. I was like, where's all my stats? And the stats work a lot different. You've got the elements and you've got your defense and evasion against certain attacks. And your weapons have something called weapon points. And if it has a certain number, once you use certain weapon point abilities, for example, if it uses 2, if you started off with a 50, it goes down to 48 to the point where it goes to 0, and then that weapon is gone. You can find other weapons that are unlimited, and they were the weapons that I stuck with. I didn't really dive into too much of the systems, but there were definitely perks of using other weapons because, like Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seven, glimmers return, and you can learn new abilities when using certain abilities with certain weapons. It's all about experimentation and a lot of patience. All in all, every time I got into a battle, I was always thinking, I was always strategizing. Sometimes I'd walk away with the loss. Most of the time, I got the win, and I was very happy with that. And I got new abilities along the way. Some enemies dropped rare items, and that weaved in to add in more abilities. Party members you come across, and it has a really unique system of where you can inherit abilities, but they don't take from them. You're kind of borrowing from them. So Gustav had really high attack for blade damage, and I wanted to make William more of a blade damaged user because he was pre-equipped with a staff, and I really didn't like the abilities that offered, and I had someone else that used a staff. So I inherited Gustav's abilities, and William was enhanced in blade attacks. There's a lot of experimentation and a lot of things to mess around with, and there's loads of things to combat that to me at first felt very random, but when you dive into the systems, you kind of can work around it. There was things like fusion spells, there was hybrid arts, which is a combination of arts and spells, and you have to be at the right time, right place for it to work. But like I said, once you kind of dive into those systems, you kind of get what it's going for. All in all, it is quite a difficult combat system to master and get to grips of, especially if you come in just from normal turn-based RPGs. There's a lot of layers, and you do indeed need patience for it. Let's talk about the duels. These are more one-on-one battles. You get to pick a character of your choosing that's in your party, and you're probably thinking, what's the perks of doing it? Well, it's a very different battle system. You don't get to use your abilities, but you can learn arts and spells a lot easier doing the duels, but there is more risk of you running out of HP and losing. And then last but not least, there was the warfare battles. Essentially, you're on like a grid, and you've got to go and strategize to take down all the enemies, and you move into them, do a battle, try and reduce their troops in a turn, and it works kind of back and forth. At first, I didn't know what was going on. I thought I had to block them to go to a certain location, but no, I had to go and push the fight to them, and then I got what it was all about. Sometimes with 3 battle systems, it probably feels quite overwhelming. It felt quite overwhelming for me, and I did stick mostly to the party battles. I mean, the warfare battles were more story-based anyway, so you do encounter them, but I kind of ignored the duels. I think if I dive into them a little bit more, maybe I'll have access to a few more abilities, but there's a lot to manage here, and if you do like strategizing and you do like big systems to explore, then this is something for you. But it was a bit of a long burn for me to get into it, and I'm at a point where I'm pretty much enjoying it and going along for the ride. So the gameplay, I can't complain, but I can't really praise it. I think it's more on me just still exploring these systems. I'm sure there's going to be veterans out there that played it back on the PS1, which will tell me a few tips and tricks along the way, and I'm hoping that you can help us all out in the comment section below. But I want to move on to the music, and I've got to say I really enjoyed the music. I was sitting in the menu while I was looking through some of the artwork and the piano track that plays during the title screen. I was just like, this is a great track. And so I listened to a few more of the tracks in the music player, and I kind of dig the SaGa Frontier 2 for soundtrack. Now let's flip over to the kind of quality of life things for SaGa Frontier 2 Remastered, and I've got to be honest, I've not played the original, so I don't know what is an enhancement or what is a quality of life, but there are definitely some things here like the pre-mentioned music player, the art player. You also have the Dig Dig Digger, which I believe was a exclusive thing for the Japanese version on the Pocket Station, I believe. You can do it here. It's a good way to get some extra items. Maybe you'll get some weapons that will help you out and learn new abilities. It's a nice extra to have, and you can find diggers across the world of SaGa Frontier 2. And I believe, and I don't know if I've already experienced it or not, but there's a little bit more story content there as well. It's a pretty decent package, and the fact that Square Enix dropped this out of nowhere, you know, it's something new to try. But if you are like me, trying to go from Romancing SaGa and think, I know SaGa games in and out now, you are sorely mistaken, and you will have new systems to learn. But the framework for SaGa games are there. It works a lot like Final Fantasy II. There's certain weapons and abilities you use and what you level up in. So there we have it, a nice short and brief thoughts and impressions video, SaGa Frontier 2 Remastered. I have gradually enjoyed my time, and I'm sure that once I roll those credits, I can reflect and be like, you know what, I learned these systems, I embraced them, and I got on with it. Now I hand the floor over to you. Have you played SaGa Frontier 2 originally on the PlayStation? Are you planning on picking up the remastered version? Have you already picked up the remastered version? Let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.